There are pages bound not in ink or vellum, but in silence. They do not reveal themselves to the curious, only to the cursed. Some things were forgotten for a reason. Others were removed. Tonight, we remember a man who searched too deeply and found a page that should never have been written. He was not the first to hold the Chronicle, but he may have been the first to fail it. Julian Wexley fancied himself a curator of oblivion. His shop, Wexley's Relics, stood crooked in the fog-heavy alleys of Wapping, a place so narrow it breathed differently by day than by night. It housed no register, no sign. The door never closed fully, and the windows never cleared of their internal frost. Julian specialized not in rare books, but in books the world no longer acknowledged. Pages without authors, languages that did not correspond to any known tongue, diaries from people who never lived, or no longer did. He arranged them not by alphabet, but by density of forgetting. The heavier the loss, the higher the shelf. The shop interior defied geometry. Longer on the inside, its walls lined with shelves that reached too high, their uppermost volumes coated in dust that seemed to resist time itself. He lived alone, ate sparingly, spoke to no one but his pages, and they began, in time, to whisper back. At night the air grew denser, and the books shifted on their own. Maps unfolded in moonlight, revealing places that no longer existed. Letters written in unbroken loops would blink if stared at long enough. Julian took notes on all of it, but never questioned why. Until the Chronicle fragment arrived. It came wrapped in brown paper, unmarked. No postage, no seal, no indication of entry. Julian had locked every door, barred every window, and sealed the post slot. He kept the keys on a chain around his neck, yet the package sat on his desk, dry despite the condensation clinging to every surface. Inside, a book fragment, no larger than a psalter, yet heavier than any tome he'd ever held. The leather binding was cracked and blackened, stitched shut with what looked like tendon. Human. He could not be sure. The smell was ancient. Not decay, but memory left too long in the dark. The wax seal that bound its single page was the colour of aged bone, bearing a sigil like a broken crown, 7 jagged prongs that recoiled from the eye when stared at directly. Beneath it, carved with something jagged, "To read this is to write it. To write it is to end." Julian stared. He did not breathe. Then he smiled. For days he studied the seal, under candlelight, then gaslight, then no light at all. It seemed to respond best when ignored. Solvents did nothing. Heat turned cold around it. When he applied a scalpel, the blade dulled. When he spoke aloud, the page grew warmer. The wax never melted. But it changed, slowly. The sigil shifted its shape when his eyes were closed. He began to dream of it. Until one night, just before 3, the hour where time seems most uncertain, he heard it. A soft tearing, like silk or skin. The wax peeled away of its own accord, curling back like a blackened rose. The parchment yawned open, and the ink began to move. Not metaphorically, the letters slithered across the page, forming lines like veins crawling beneath skin. Julian Wexley, designated custos of the Chronicle. Status, inactive. Violation, breach of forbidden ink. Sentence, erasure. He stumbled backward, knocking over a chair that hadn't been there before. The room had changed, the shelves closer, the shadows thicker. More words appeared. This record was not found. It was not given. It was hidden, and you uncovered it. Julian tried to shut the page. The parchment stiffened in protest. The keeper before you wrote what could not be read. You opened what he sealed. His name began to blur on the page, as though the ink could no longer hold it. The forgetting came slowly, deliberately. It began with the postman. Mr. Henley had delivered to Wexley's Relics for 13 years, but now he paused at the threshold, letters in hand, brow furrowed. "Pardon me, but is Mr. Wexley out today?" "You know who I am," Julian said. "You've known for over a decade." The man blinked. "I don't believe we've met." Later that week, Julian found his own name missing from a city register. Then it vanished from letters. Then from his reflection. His journal entries faded overnight. One moment there, the next. Blank parchment. Mirrors lagged behind his movements. In one, he saw himself turn, after he had already turned. His home compressed. Walls shifted inches inward each day. Doors sealed overnight. Hallways narrowed into stairwells that led nowhere. The air thickened. He measured his study. 12 steps wide. Then 11. Then 9. No matter how he disposed of the Chronicle, it returned. On his desk, open, waiting. Then, one morning, a second page, unsealed, blank, except for one line written in blood-dark ink. The previous keeper failed to understand the rules. Above the fireplace, a portrait, where nothing had ever hung. The figure wore black, robes too fluid to be cloth. The shadows around his face bent unnaturally. His eyes reflected only ink. He was familiar, though Julian could not say why. The brass plaque beneath it read, E. Nocturne, Custos Ultimus. The name echoed, from a folio he had read in Paris burned by priests, from a voice he had once heard in a dream, from a slip of paper beneath a skull in the crypts of St. Clement's. "Turn the page, Julian." The painting's eyes moved, and then, beneath the plaque, another inscription appeared, scratched by something sharp. Before the final keeper, there were those who thought themselves worthy. His study was now a cell. He could not stand. The ceiling hung like a low sky. The Chronicle fragment pulsed with light. The ink inside shimmered. A hand emerged from the page, boneless, pale. It reached into the inkwell and drew a knife, not metal, but glyphs hardened into edge, symbols curved into blade. Julian tried to move. There was nowhere to go. Tried to scream. His breath failed him. You were not chosen to know. The blade passed through him like smoke. Not flesh, but memory was severed. Wexley's Relics was abandoned. The dust was undisturbed. The windows had no glass. Only one item remained, a book fragment. Sealed, unreadable. The brass plate beneath it did not say Julian Wexley. It said, Custos Nullus, the forgotten keeper. But it was not the end. Deep beneath stone and memory, the Chronicle waited. Beyond the 7th lock, the one no key could open, the one sealed by forgetting. And someone came. He did not seek the book. It was already open to him. And when he turned its page, he did not remember his name. But the Chronicle did. It gave him a new one, Elias Nocturne, the keeper who remains. The Chronicle does not kill. It edits. Julian Wexley broke its rules. He tried to know what must only be remembered. He vanished. But the Chronicle left behind a door, one that Elias Blackwood would open. not in a shop, but in the shadows beneath his family's bones. He did not turn the page to claim it. He turned it because the book had already written his name. I remember the Chronicle, but not the man I was before. Not fully, not yet, but it remembers me, and for now, that is enough.